Just days out from the one-year anniversary of Julia Gillard's Prime Ministership, new polls out this morning show support for both her and the Labor Party are plummeting. Meanwhile, a Labor MP has lashed out at the Greens, and he's told the ABC he wants to direct his preferences away from the minor party. In his criticism, Labor backbencher Michael Danby targeted incoming Greens Senator Lee Rhiannon. He's speaking to 7:30's political editor Chris Uhlmann.
Michael Danby, can you tell us what your intentions are at the next election when it comes to distributing preferences?
Well, I'll be advising my campaign committee to consider not giving preferences to the Greens, but we'll be waiting to see in the adjoining seat what the Liberal Party is going to be doing in Melbourne.
But is it Labor Party policy that you would not be directing preferences to the Greens?
No, I think in marginal seats it's very much up to local campaigns, but as you can understand, Chris, I have some influence in Melbourne Ports, and will be recommending that on the basis of what happens in Melbourne. If the Liberals are going to preference against the Greens in Melbourne, we'll consider doing the same in Melbourne Ports.
So the outcome of that, of course, would be that you would preference the Liberals ahead of the Greens.
It doesn't necessarily mean that. It depends on who's contesting at the election, but obviously I'd put the Greens ahead of any sort of extremist group, but it could be that the Liberals get a higher preference.
Why is it that you have this reaction to the Greens?
Well, I think that many people in my electorate share the views of the Prime Minister and the Minister for Resources, that the Greens' policies, such as their support for 30% death duties, are not the kinds of policies that mainstream Australians support. I'm a member of a minority government. We're not in coalition with them, and many Labor Party members believe that we should make a separate and a distinct political stand.
But of course your government is being supported by the Greens. Their support is very important. Aren't you concerned that this might antagonise them?
Obviously, when important legislation comes up, I support the Prime Minister in dealing with whatever of the minority parties might support that legislation, but it doesn't mean that we're obliged to support them on all issues or to give them preferences. I think it's very important to call the Liberals to account in Melbourne. It's their preferences that elected the Greens last time, and if they do the right thing in Melbourne Ports, we'll consider doing the same thing.
Have you been in discussions with the Liberal Party?
No.
One last thing, you've likened Lee Rhiannon as the Eleanor Ceausescu of the Greens. What made you say that?
It was her grim sort of Stalinesque politics that I was referring to. A person who was a member of the Socialist Party of Australia, the pro-Moscow Communist Party, and who apologised for all of the Russian invasions, or Soviet invasions of Afghanistan or Czechoslovakia, and never apologised, is a person who I think really should be held to a political account. And that's why I compared her sort of grim politics with the politics of Elena Ceausescu.
You don't think that's a bit of an extreme comparison?
No, I don't. I think that if anyone reads Mark Aarons' profile of the new New South Wales Green Senator from the Monthly, they'll come to the same conclusion.
That's Michael Danby speaking there with Chris Uhlmann from the 7:30 report. And